So I am calling to order this regular town council meeting, November 30th, 2023. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And then a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brian, can we just clarify, this is not a special meeting, right? This is a regular meeting because
It is a special meeting technically.
Because it's on a Thursday.
but we approved it as part of our entire meeting packet, as our entire meeting schedule for it to be today. When we voted on our meetings last 2 weeks ago, this was part of that schedule.
And as far as I'm aware, this is still a special meeting.
Okay, so it's a special meeting. I can't change the order of the meeting agenda. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you for the thought.
Right. So the next item on the agenda is proclamations and presentations, of which there is none. Item 5 is public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council with a 2-minute limit. If you are in the public, please come up to the table, state your name and address. If you are on Zoom, please raise your Zoom hand or press *9, and we'll go back and forth. We'll start in the room. Is there anyone?
John Lappin, 168 Mountain Spring Road. Before I get into my speech, I would like to specifically point out that I appreciate the efforts of Chairperson Katie Stargardner in regards to the self-contamination issue. I know that she has been a part of the Road Salt Task Force since inception and has pushed for greater transparency and communication with the public at large, which I appreciate. With that being said, hello, Town Council. I'm here again tonight looking for solutions for my contaminated water. Recently, at the last Town Council meeting, it was determined that yet another report from Langen will be needed. I would like to know what this report will seek to accomplish. Also, I'm looking for updates from the meeting that the town recently had with Deep regarding the previous Langen reports and steps forward. Mr. Foley talked about the need for solutions previously, but I feel as though we have backtracked a bit and instead are looking to still assign blame or are taking an exorbitant amount of time to determine the depth of which to drill a well. Unless the town has made a decision to spend the nearly $1 million to hook up my property to public water. I re-mailed this to Connecticut Water, and that's the amount. I've been dealing with this issue for far too long, and I've chronicled several different ways in which this tainted water has impacted me. These have ranged from destruction of personal property, significant financial impact, loss of time, and of course, a basic right to clean drinking water. I come to you tonight to talk about another way in which this has been impacting both myself and my wife. I will be leaving a copy of a letter from DCF to myself and my wife that the town council can review later. To summarize it quickly, my wife and I have been looking into starting a family, and early on we were met with some unexpected and devastating roadblocks because of this contaminated water situation. We looked into the possibility of adoption to begin our family and were met with resistance from the Department of Children and Families within the state of Connecticut. We were informed that our home would not be a suitable home for a child because of our current water situation. Now we are hoping to begin our family through other means, but I'm still very apprehensive. If DCF doesn't think we have a suitable home for an adoption, then why wouldn't I share those same concerns for my own child? Typically, parents are concerned about stairs, electrical outlets, chemicals, and other things for their young ones. And while I fear those as well, I'm fearful of tap water. I hope to see some significant movement on this issue in the very near future, because as you can see, this letter that I am giving you is over 1.5 years old, and I am no better off than I was then. Thank you. I'm going to submit this letter to the court reporter.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Is there anyone online who wishes to communicate with council? Anyone else in the public? Okay, seeing no other requests, I will move on to item 6, which is our public hearing item. Brian, could you walk us through this, please?
Yes, so with the public hearing, we're some basics. We're required to have a public hearing when we spend over a certain amount of money. Lisa, do you know, was it around 50 grand? Is that what it was or something when we get over that?
No, it's 200 and something thousand.
No, that's what it was.
200 or 300,000.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
And so we're obviously well over that. I'm sorry with this 415. This is a steep grant application for something that we applied for that was in our capital plan a few years out. And that was for dedicated pickleball courts up at Herring Cove, which used to be now an obsolete ice skating rink. We have purchased a temporary ice skating rink or a portable, I'm sorry, ice skating rink to be used at Crandall's over the winter. So we've made some progress on both ends. Rather than pay for this ourselves, we asked the state for a steep grant application to do that. Sometimes when there's grants, that you don't get 100% of the money, the state or the federal government or whoever's giving us the grant sometimes says, we'll only give you a percentage. We know that going into this, that it was an 80-20, 80%, 20% grant opportunity, in that the state would give us 80, the town would have to do a 20% match. So instead of paying for the full cost, we'd only have to pay for 20%. This was brought to town council, again, for background. Sometimes when we apply, or most of the time when we apply for a grant, we come to town council and ask for permission ahead of time. This was done on August 8th. We approached council, went through all of this, and asked for permission to even apply for the grant. It was granted. Megan Massa, who is here today to talk about the particulars of the grant, and Lisa Hancock, our financial director, also here, did an excellent job in preparation of the grant, so much so that we were awarded the grant. It's very similar to the grant that we got for the Crandall's tennis courts, pickleball courts that we just had finished and had a grand opening. I encourage you to go look at that. It looks great. And so this is our public hearing to discuss this grant. And basically the main part of it is that our match, the town's match of the estimated $415,000 to do the courts is $83,000. And this will come out of our the capital non-reoccurring fund. So the 83,000 will come from that. The grant is administered by DECD. They work closely with our staff once we start to move forward. So this is the discussion of that.
Thank you. So we are we set the meeting for a public hearing sometime in October, right? We set this
Yep.
public hearing date. And we did intentionally set it out for the last meeting in November.
Yep.
So as we didn't overload ourselves on our first ever council meeting. So here we are on our second council meeting with another public hearing. Is there any discussion before we consider opening the public hearing? Okay, is there a motion then to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Jacob. Second. Second by Jen. Is there any discussion about opening the public hearing? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? So that is unanimous. So the public hearing is now open. If any member of the public wishes to speak to the council on this matter, you can approach the table, state your name and address, or if you're online, you can raise your Zoom hand or press *9. Anybody want to talk about the pickleball courts? All right. Sounds like no public hearing comments at this point. Is there a motion that to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Chris, move. Jacob, second. Any discussion about closing the public hearing? All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Okay. Opposed, abstention, so that is unanimous. So now the public hearing is closed. Thank you very much. We have in front of us a resolution to approve, I wrote down exactly what we're doing. Hold on. This is the resolution on 6.1 is to approve the entire appropriations for this project of a total of $415,000. Is there any discussion before we consider that motion?
You have to read this, or do
No,
we just,
we
we can just
Make the motion. Yeah.
motion to approve it?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. Do you wish? Yes, please.
So thank you, Brian, for answering a few of my questions on this. I was just reading through your response here. So the entire project was in the capital plan for 26-27. So, and you're saying, but the specific matching was not in the budget, but since we get the grant, essentially we are reducing what's in the capital budget. That entire amount minus 83,000. Is that
That's accurate.
correct? Okay.
Lisa, would we have gone to debt for that?
Yes, there was some debt as part of the, issue to pay for it. And we were also going to try to use a LoCIP grant, local capital improvement fund grant. One part of this resolution, there's just one thing that we need to just add to it, if you don't mind, and I apologize for this, but, it should be the town match from the capital and non-recurring fund. That is where the funds were identified with the last town council as to where it would come from for the match share.
Okay. So the town match is from the CNRA.
Right.
From the,
Hold on, that might be in the 8 point, it might be in the 8.1. I thought I remember seeing that, so give me 1 second. Or
it's
maybe,
not, 8.1 is to accept the.
That's just for you
Got
to
it.
be able to sign.
that's not the formality, got it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was all part of the original discussion, and, you know, we've had some change in some of the staff too, and putting some of this together, but, the town match is definitely coming from CNRE, so I'd appreciate if you would include that as, you know, from CNRE as part of your resolution, if you so, thank you, go ahead and approve, thank you.
Just a comment. I just want to thank everyone that put in the time and effort to get the grant for our town. Anytime we don't, we can get money from the state or from anywhere other than our taxpayers. I think that's great. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for everyone who put the time and effort in to get that. I think it's fantastic.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a question. So I just want to understand where the fund, the 83,000 is coming from now. So we have a capital improvement budget that comes out starting December. So is the 83,000 going to be in the December capital improvement?
No, because this is outside of the capital improvement plan process. It originally was part of the CIP plan.
For 2026.
Right.
Okay.
What we did was we pulled it out of that plan because of the grant award coming now, and we have to put the appropriation in place. So when this was discussed back in August, when prior town council, we had to identify where we would get our match from at that point, and we couldn't use other grants where we had originally planned to do that out in 26, 27. So we identified the CNRE fund, and we've been fortunate to have some additional funds go into that fund due to our municipal stabilization, tax stabilization ordinance that we had some money go into it. So at least that has helped offset that fund of any additional burden.
Okay. So even though this money's not, when are these pickleball courts going to be built?
Right away.
Yeah, as soon as we start getting the money from DECD.
So we don't have to wait till spring or anything, or you just?
Well, Megan, what do you think? Yeah, we're gonna have to wait till spring.
Okay, I'd just like to ask.
Hold on a second, it's still Joe's turn.
Yeah, sorry. So that money is locked in now, even though this may not start until, let's say, spring at the earliest. If there's delays, does it go into, doesn't go into next year's budget, and it's like.
How long do we have to spend it, Megan?
We have, 4 years, we can file for one year, it's like 5 years.
Why?
Yeah, it's a reimbursement, so, that's why we need to do the appropriation. So we'll have the money set aside, and then the state will reimburse us when the project's complete.
And they want to see an appropriation on the town's behalf before they're gonna start greasing the wheels over there.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So some of the questions that I had just received from the public were folks not knowing about these courts. Brian, if you could touch on just like where the inspiration to start these courts came from, this townwide.
The pickleball community is very, very vocal and strong. And popular, and this as I hope to be the last pickleball thing we see, given that we have now 3 new courts at Crandall's, an inside court at the rec center that is booked all the time. And now these courts here, I am seeing a project of grant money and a private donation to put a court also at the senior center dedicated to seniors.
Wow.
If you look at our pickleball community, it is entirely vast majority of it is the almost seniors.
Okay.
I think it'll be put to good use. Again, most of that will come from a private donation, but some of it will come from a grant from the federal government aimed at only senior centers around the country. So that's down the road. We got a ton. And I'm sure the chair and Colleen here can attest to the fact that we've been hearing pickleball. And so we embrace it. It certainly keeps our community healthier, active, more active, and that this is a dead area up at Heron Cove, that ice skating rink was an ambitious project when it was put in a long time ago. And I think it's a good way to get some people up there as well. It's just beautiful land up there.
And so just to be clear, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that folks think this is gonna be taxpayer money. This is not going to be taxpayer money.
Well, I guess one could say anything we get from the state is taxpayer money. But it's 83,000 of it is technically our coming out of our pockets. Is that accurate, Lisa?
Yes, but it's not from tax money. It's from a different source of revenues.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I know we did put a lot of information about this pickleball court on the record last time we spoke, so I encourage anyone to look back at the record to get some additional information about the pickleball court. So,
In addition, the cover memo does talk about CNRE. Just,
thank you, sir. So are there any other questions before we move up to the motion of 6.1? Okay, so is there a motion to accept the resolution of 6.1 with the modification of the $83,000 town match being specified as coming from CNRE?
So moved.
Yes, Chris made the motion. Is there a second? A second. Is there any discussion before we vote? No. Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you. So now we will move on to 7.1. These are reports of boards and committees responsible to council. Is there any update from ARPA?
No, we're scheduling a special meeting, or we're trying to schedule a special meeting for Wednesday, December 20th, basically just organizational meeting, and just a few things, can't be a lot of meeting, we have to approve next year's calendar. So, but you have to confirm assignments first, but
We'll do that later on tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian, do you have an update on the firehouse subcommittee?
The new appointees, once appointed, we're gonna meet out, at the firehouse, to go over that, but no, there's been no meetings or any updates. However, in my town manager report, I'll have an update on the, station 340 and
Okay. And, what about the road salt task force? Would you like to give an update there?
Sure, we had, you're stealing the thunder from my, manager's report,
Oh,
for later, but that's.
we can wait if you'd like.
No, I'll get it over with now. We had a meeting with Langdon and Deep. We got some plans to move forward and some steps for us to take. I will be taking some of those steps. Personally, I was left with the sense that Deep couldn't provide a lot of the answers, and there's a lot of there's more I think that Deep could do. There's certainly more that DPH can do, DOT, and we're hoping to get Eastern Highlands on board as well. But certainly moving forward with 168 to Mountain Spring and some of the other projects as well as we start to try to hammer these out. That's what we have. And did I miss anything?
No, I just wanted to clarify it. What we approved at our last meeting was not for an additional study from Langen, but to keep them in their consultative role with the town as we move forward with these meetings to determine the next steps.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Next, we go to reports of town council liaisons. I know there were several people on the Board of Ed meeting last night. I don't know if anyone wants to just give us a really quick update on Board of Ed last night.
It was a very quick meeting.
That's rare.
That's why. Basically, but I mean, it was just basically their organization meeting, Tony Holt's the chair, Doug Gallagher is vice chair, and Bill Bodie is the secretary, and I don't remember much else that they really discussed, so I wish them, I said last night, I wish them luck. The next 2 years, I'm sure you'll do great things, and like I said last night, we'll see you in a few months, probably. Hopefully sooner. I think our chair wants to work more closely with the chair of the board of ed.
I attended the special meeting of the Historic District Commission last night where, the modified COA for the solar panels for the UCC church was approved. There will be no solar panels on the main roof of that church. Due to requests from the HDC, they will be clear cutting behind the church and putting a ground mounted array outside of the district, outside the boundaries of the Historic District Commission. That was pretty much it for them. Anybody else attend the meeting since October 14th? That's all good. Okay. It'll get more exciting, I promise, when we talk about these things. The next item on our agenda is the new business, and that is 8.1, consideration of a resolution for the steep grant award, and this is to accept the award that we approved sort of earlier in the meeting.
Yes, thank you. That this is basically a formality in which the council has to approve, to have me sign all documents and paperwork and push this forward, with the state, pertaining to this grant funding. That's all.
Thank you. I would like to note, and just put on the record that while, professionally, I am employed by DCD, they are the agency that is sending the money out. They don't actually decide who gets these grants, so there is no conflict of interest with me being on council and this grant being issued. Any other, questions about item 8.1 to sign the paperwork and accept the grant money? No. Is there a motion? Do you have a motion?
I was just curious, what exactly is the motion? I'm just a little
Sure.
curious about.
Yeah, so this motion is to accept the grant.
Okay,
The previous motion that we made was to approve the entire appropriations.
okay.
So basically, the town will be spending the $415,000, of which a big chunk of it, 80% is coming from the steep grant, 20% from the CNRA. This motion here is to accept the grant and to allow Brian to sign the appropriate documents with the state so that we're under contract.
Requirement of the state to have this on record, in council, and so that we can move forward.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so then is there a motion to approve the resolution for item 8.1?
I'll make the motion.
Colleen made the motion. Is there a second? Joe second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. 8.2 is the appointment of the auditor for the town. Please.
Thank you. For those that don't know, municipalities have to have an audit. And they audit and make sure that there's, lack of a better term, no shenanigans going on behind the scenes. They keep us all honest and out of prison, which is fantastic. They look at both the town and the Board of Education. It is, however, we are required to do it, but we are also required to pay for it. I have here today Lisa Hancock, who is the most highly awarded, I'm sure, financial director in the state, and someone we rely upon very, very, very heavily to keep us in a AAA rating, and also to make sure that we have a good, smooth audit, which we do. Lisa, do you want to add some things?
Basically, just as part of this packet, as the manager said, we're required to, and not only by state law, but by town charter as well. And the profession out there, like so many others right now, is becoming very challenging to even hire an auditor for municipal audits. There's very few firms out there, and them keeping staff is even difficult as well. What we are proposing here is we did some research with, we had CCM do some research with some other towns as well as what they're paying for fees, as well as,
Can you just tell us what CCM is?
oh, I'm sorry, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities.
Thank you.
And they do a lot of work for us, in research as, legislative.
It's a
Okay.
municipal consortium that we pay a yearly fee to belong to, but they do a lot of services for us. And so like, when we have this audit coming out, Lisa can reach out to CCM and say, hey, this is what we're being offered. Is it a good price? What are the other towns getting basically? And so,
Exactly.
that's basically it. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you.
And not only did I reach out with them, but I did speak with some of my colleagues as well. And I try to share a lot of that in the packet so you could see what the responses were from each of them. We are within reason. What I proposed here is to lock in for a 5-year contract. That doesn't mean we're locked in for 5 years. If we don't like the service that we're getting, then we can always back out of the contract. However, it at least locks us in for a rate for 5 years for the services. Rather than, they gave us a proposal for 5 years and a proposal for 3 years, and the 3 years is a little bit higher. So I think, in my opinion, if we were going to go with them, the no-brainer is to lock in for the 5 years, because it's a little bit less costly. The Board of Education does pay 50% of the bill. And they again are also serviced as part of the contract. I don't know if there's anything, if you have any questions, I'd rather defer to that.
Pretty invasive when they come here. They're up here, every day for a month or so. How long are they up here?
Oh, well, we start in April, May with preliminary work. They are up here for a few weeks, looking at a lot of detail. Then they come back after the close of the fiscal year for some more detail work after the year. And we're still, right to this day, I'm doing the final, work on the audit to get that done within the next couple of weeks.
Are there any questions for town staff?
How do you use that? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, please.
Okay, the one question I did have was just kind of looking through, the 15 municipalities that were surveyed. And it appeared, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the more complex the audit is, the more expensive it would be. So even though some municipalities have the same population range, they have a more complex audit. So that would, account for why there's such a range as far as the price. Is
That
correct?
is very true. There's some communities that are paying a lot more money that maybe they shouldn't be, but because of how they were locked in, Stratford for one of them, they're kind of stuck because with the only game in town, that's what they can get. But the problem that I'm hearing from colleagues is that they're not even getting people to quote them on the services because they're so understaffed.
Thank you.
But yes, that's a good question.
Who do we use in the past?
We have mainly used Bloom Shapiro,
That's who I remember back when I was.
yeah, and they merged with CLA,
Oh, okay.
but we changed partners to, keep different staff and on their toes. There's different staff that comes in and does the audit. So there are always new sets of eyes looking at everything. I'm trying to think who else. Years before me, I can't remember the names, but there were some other firms in here.
Okay. Do we have to stick with like a local firm? Because, the accounting world, like a lot of other industries is, you can have someone working in California that can audit these work papers. So this is a local firm, obviously. So have we looked at maybe using a firm that's outside of this area that can do the work remotely?
That's a good question. The problem is there's a lot of information where they need to be on site to be looking at physical documents, things like that. We've tried to do scanning and things like that.
Right.
It just gets more costly that way as far as staff time as well as them documenting everything else. But we have not, I've never used a company from out of state.
Okay.
For that purpose, and I'm not sure what it would be like with
I mean,
with the pricing. I just don't know the pricing and the ability.
It's pretty invasive, like I said, they're here, you know, looking under rocks and.
yeah, I mean, you know, I deal with this obviously myself a lot. And I've seen a trend where, you know, we send a tremendous amount of documentation electronically these days. And it's been a change for us because, you know, I'm old school. I like paper. I like hard copies of everything so I can read it, write out and stuff like that. So I'm a little resistant to it, but it's the way things are going. And we've saved on fees, my professional experience, we have saved on fees using lower tier firms. And I don't want to say they're inferior, but you know, lower tier firms, and in this case, I don't know how much lower you can go in CLA, it's a regional firm. But you know, you could potentially reach out to a Midwest firm that's used to this type of audit. If we get to the point in the office here where we keep the majority of our documentation electronically, I think it's something that we want to think about a few years down the road.
I agree, and I think, I know that CCM, if that were an option, they would say, hey, it's costing everyone a lot of money. But we're seeing some success with this process. That would be something they would point to us, so we'll look for that.
Good point.
Something there.
Are there any other questions? Lisa? Okay. So the motion or the resolution for this, unintentionally got left out of our packet. We did get a paper copy in front of us, and everybody's seat, but I'm just gonna read the resolution and ask if someone would like to make the motion. Be it resolved by the Tolland Town Council appoints Clifton Larson and Allen CLA firm to conduct annual auditing services effective for audits ending for fiscal years June 30th, 2024 through June 30th, 2028 for 5 years. The town council authorizes Brian Foley, town manager of the town of Tolland, to enter into contracts for these services. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Jacob made the motion,
Seconded.
second by Chris. Is there any discussion? No, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So that is unanimous. Thank you, Lisa. I would say the materials provided on pricing was great. Lots of really good information in here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next, we stay with Lisa to talk about the financial update for the period ending September 30th, 2023.
Thank you, Chair. So this is something that was championed by you, that you wanted some more transparency, and that there was no surprises for council. I concur that that was a good idea. I worked with Lisa, and specifically Lisa worked with you to come up with some ideas on how we can best do that. So a quarterly report. This is very similar to what I'm pushing for, a quarterly crime report from our state police. So there's no surprises and some transparency. So with that, again, I give you, again, our highly awarded, underappreciated, highly valued financial
Okay,
director.
that's enough.
Is that good?
I get it.
Said
I
it
think I
right? All right,
understand.
thanks. She texted me all this stuff. So. Lisa, don't- all right, so thanks. Go ahead,
Okay,
Lisa.
so in the past, we have provided financial reports. Usually it's been part of the town council manager's report. And I tend to be very lengthy in my descriptions of everything. And working with Chairman Stargarter, we came up with a way to try to, I don't think I'll ever be able to keep it to one page, but I'm really trying. Just because there is so much information. As the year goes on, there may be more and more bullets that will have to come into play. So what I've put together for you, we've always had this summarized report of financial information. That's always been there. But rather than having a lot of verbiage, and I'm always, again, I'll caveat that with I'm always available for questions or concerns to discuss. We're trying this little bulleted items, which I will discuss with you. Just first of all, with our revenues, we're doing very well this year. Unexpectedly well in a couple of areas with our excess cost, education cost sharing grant. We're anticipating getting an extra almost $176,000 that we had not budgeted for. I know during budget process, there were possibilities of those funds being reinstated, but we couldn't get any firm confirmation that it was going to happen. So, we always take the conservative approach and go with what the governor had given us, unless we can have some sort of firm information saying you are going to get that money, even though it's not there yet, you're going to get it. So that we kind of had an inkling would happen, but we weren't sure. It has come through that we will be receiving about $176,000 extra in the educational cost sharing funding from the state of Connecticut. Now, with that, we have a fund, an ordinance called the Municipal Tax Stabilization Fund. And under that fund, it allows for any grant that's in excess of $100,000 from the state of Connecticut that we get in excess of what we had budgeted. The ordinance requires us to take 75% of that to put into a special fund called a tax stabilization fund, and the other 25% goes into the capital non-recurring fund, which is where you allocated some funds this evening. So with that said, but you have to wait till the end of the fiscal year to see where our other state revenues are going in our other state funds to make sure, unless we have a significant shortfall somewhere else, that may caveat it not going to those funds. But right now, we're in very good shape. In addition to that, there was another grant that we received and had no idea that we were going to get it. And that was for municipal revenue sharing funds. I reached out, and that was in the amount of $368,207. That's a lot more than the 175. I mean, it's good news that we're getting all this extra money, and again, that will fall under the same ordinance. The thing behind this municipal revenue sharing, when I checked with CCM, George Raphael is our liaison there, and I also checked with Martin Heft at the state of Connecticut, and they advised me there's no way of knowing what this allotment will be under the state laws that govern it until they determine what's left over in the fund. So unfortunately, we had no idea of where it could go. When it comes to budget season, we can talk about this and see if we want to take certain risks or not. But this is 2 years in a row now this has happened. Last year was nowhere near as high as this, but we did receive a couple $100,000 last year. Again, of this amount, of these two amounts, we're going to be putting $407,000 into our tax stabilization fund and almost $136,000 into the capital non-recurring fund from these two things, if everything goes well for the rest of the year. I certainly have some ideas to share with you when it comes time for the capital plan and all that, but I'm sure you all may have ideas of how to utilize those funds as well in the future, but we can talk about that when you're ready. Another area of good news, and it could be changing as things go on, is that I'm estimating excess funds in our investment earnings. We did pump up that budget during the budget process over last year because we had significant investment earnings last year. Interest rates, our advisors that we work with to try to calculate where we think the budget will be and where the rates will be, kept advising us that this is great. Interest rates are great right now. However, they're going to eventually turn around and start dropping. So even though we increased the budget for this year, we did it with anticipation of it falling. Now, what I'm hearing through our economic news is that there is discussion out there of lowering the interest rate. Time will tell. In the meantime, we're doing really well. And, it could even be more than 199,000, depending on how the next couple of months go. Of course, I'll keep you updated after the close of the next quarter. Now, those are pretty much the highlights on the revenue side. You'll see at the top of the page, I do a comparison of, this is as of the end of September. Usually I like to get this report to you sooner, but because of the change in council, we delayed it till you came on board. It just shows the actual received at the end of September versus where the budget is and how we compared to the same time last year. So you can get a feel if we're kind of in sync to last year or not. And then I do another column where I try to estimate where I think we'll be at June 30th. That's a little bit difficult to estimate to June 30th at this time of the year. But as we start moving on over the next couple of quarters, we'll have a better feel for where June 30th will be. It's the same thing on the expenditure side. We look at commitments, we look at trends, and work with department heads to try to figure out where their spending will be. Where we have known savings right now, I do try to show that in this report. And again, we don't have a lot of known savings at this point in time. After we get through the winter and snow removal and everything else, we have a better feel. Now, some of the highlights on expenditures, we've had a lot of attrition in several departments, people retiring, moving on to other careers. So a portion of the savings that result from that attrition are used, some have been used to hire temporary staff to fill the gaps, such as in the fire department, tax department, where we're dealing with that area as well. So sometimes some of those funds will be used for that purpose. Anything that's left over at the end of the year will go into the contingency account. And a lot of times what I'll recommend is using those funds to cover our health insurance costs that need some attention. And when we get through budget, we can discuss that as well. There's also $80,000 noted in the public safety area. Again, that was through attrition of officers as well as hiring replacement officers, troopers at lower rates. Now that this was written before our resident trooper retired, I'm not sure how he will be replaced, but it depends on where he comes in. That could change that $80,000 savings depending on who he's replaced.
Let me provide some clarity. The younger the trooper, the cheaper the trooper.
Yeah.
Just like a teacher, and a teacher, a young new teacher is a lot cheaper than an experienced old one. But we will have more to come on that in the next budget meeting, or next town council meeting. The troopers are going to be here. No worries. That was mine. So go ahead, Lisa. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. So time will tell once we know what it is. You will notice on the other financing uses account, that's right towards the bottom of my spreadsheet. You'll see significant deficits there, like the 407 to 135. Don't let that alarm you. That has to do with the whole excess revenues that come in for the tax stabilization fund, and that's just showing the projected use of them being transferred out.
Explain that, I'm trying to get
Sure.
my head's backwards, but
Mhm,
if the money's coming in,
mhm.
I would expect the revenues
They are,
and then see a reduction in the revenue section.
no,
Like you're showing an increase in the cost section.
right, because you always match your revenues with your expense. And so we can't just reduce our revenue line item, we have to transfer, the way the accounting works, you have to transfer it out to the fund, so it shows as an expense.
Cost.
But although the revenue is on the other side of it at the top, you'll also
Yeah.
see the excess in revenue. If you look up at the top at the revenues, you'll see the offsetting match.
I see. Okay.
So
So that's
that-
just basically restating that there's a cost we're gonna incur that normally wasn't part of our cost, but because of the income. Okay, makes sense,
exactly.
makes sense.
And it just evens out and then goes to the other funds. So it's not like you're losing those funds, it's just being reclassified.
Okay.
Now, lastly, what we do during our budget process for non-affiliated staff as well as union contracts that have not been settled, we keep the estimated amount of what we think raises will be for those units. And they're kept in a separate account until it's time, everything's been negotiated and approved through a union contract or the manager's approval of the non-affiliated staff with council. So during the year, usually within the first 3 to 6 months, there's money that is moved from that contingency account to the different payroll accounts. So at this time, most of those funds have been moved to those accounts. There really have been, and also, so as far as those transfers, those are all in pretty much mostly in place. There's a few that we're straggling that we're dealing with. The other time under our charter is that department heads can move money within their line items. Like if something comes up, a repair or something, for example, and it's an emergency, they have to do it. They may have to say, all right, you know what? I'm not getting a case of paper, or I'm not getting this or that. And I have to reclassify those funds. The department heads have the authority to move within their own line items. You don't see very much of that, but on occasion you will. Under the charter, the manager has an allowance to be able to move savings from one department to another, but up to a 3% of that budget. There hasn't been any of that so far this year, and it's very rare that he does do anything like that. Now, if there's something significant where last year we did have a situation where we needed funds, we had savings in the state trooper budget again, and we needed funds in another area, we will come to town council, present the facts to you and the information, and we'll have the town council approve that. So at this point, there's really been no interdepartment transfers except for the payroll wages, as I discussed, and nothing else at this time.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Lisa on this?
Or not a question, just,
Go ahead.
I want to thank the chairperson and you, Lisa, for putting this together. And unlike Joe, I don't have an accounting background, so I found the bullet points, the bullet point highlights very helpful. So thank you for doing that.
That makes me feel very good, because I am a little bit out of my comfort zone
No,
with
that was
the way I talk all the time.
That was great.
Does anyone else have any questions for Lisa?
I got one more question. I just want to understand, and maybe you said this when I was reading, and sometimes I zoned out, and I apologize, but I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. So on this municipal tax stabilization fund, and I can remember this years ago, like, why can't, maybe you said this, why can't you use that money? So you showed as an increase in revenue, why can't that money be used to offset existing expenses that we currently have on here, so that we actually show that we've improved our budget by $400,000, $500,000, almost $500,000.
Policy doesn't allow for that. The
Yeah.
policy is pretty strict.
It
Yeah,
says,
we have the ordinance. It's more than just a policy. It's a governing ordinance. And basically what it does is, you have unexpected revenue. Normally at year end, what would happen if we did not have that ordinance is that you would not have a transfer of those funds out of the general fund, and the excess revenue would just go right into undesignated fund balance. And so it would increase that fund balance. What this does is it puts it into a different area that has even more control over, there's control over the use of fund balance, but it's even more restrictive control of how those funds can be used.
So for example, in the pickleball courts, if we didn't spend the $83,000, we would lose that fund. Barring anything else, we would lose that funding and we said, well, we're just not gonna spend the 83 grand, we'd rather reallocate it to something else. They'd say, no, you've got it, you can't use it for existing costs. So we say, fine, we'll help improve our pickleball courts. That's effectively how that works. So that 83, I'm trying to think, the 83,000 is not like it's costing us anything, like you said, because if we didn't spend it, we'd lose it.
We would lose the grant if we did not spend the 83,000 for what you approved earlier. We would lose the grant award because the award requires us to come up with $83,000.
Yeah, I understand that.
So the use of the funds,
We're using that $83,000 outside of our
outside our budget.
budget. Yeah, so that's why
Right.
we had to make, that's why we had to vote on it, because we're moving money that was not budgeted to spend it in this fiscal year.
Right,
Okay.
and that
We
won't even
didn't,
hit the general fund.
if we didn't spend that for something,
It would stay in CNO
CNRA, I'm sorry, like ever.
until we spent it.
Until we finally figure out someone's.
Yeah,
With our capital improvement plan, we have certain amount of funds. We watch very closely the different buckets of available funds or bonding sources, things like that. So with the CNRE fund, we program a certain amount of that to be used each year in our elaborate capital plan, which the manager will be sharing with you soon. And we can certainly go through a lot of the details behind that and how it works. But the money in that fund is very limited, but we have been fortunate with the municipal stabilization ordinance that has had some replenishment over the last few years. So that's been an advantage for us and gave us the opportunity to factor it into the capital.
So we can use the CNRE funds for capital improvements as well.
We can, and we do. It's definitely programmed into the next 5 years, budget for the capital plan. And again, I can go through that with you, when the capital plan's presented, or anytime you want to stop in and if it's okay with the manager, of course, I'd be happy to, go over it and show you.
Unless Brian wants to take the lead on, talking us through that, just kidding.
Yeah,
He's got a pretty good handle on it.
Lisa's much the right person for that. As I'm sure that the two council persons who remained on from last session will certainly recognize Lisa's the right person for that. But you'll see that to the new members that we have a lot of guardrails in Tolland on our fiscal policies that really prevent us from doing anything irresponsible. And those guardrails, one, the function of them, as well as the mere fact that we have them, lead into our AAA bond rating that have kept our finances so strong. Again, no shenanigans. Everything is defined in policy or charter or it's very strict and very good for our AAA bond rating.
any other questions for Lisa?
I agree, you said it earlier, I think this is great. Idea, I mean, Board of Ed does it monthly, so I think we should be held to that same standard. We expect Board of Ed report out numbers, so I think this is a great start and I appreciate the work that you guys put into it.
Sure. And let's not scare Lisa. We're not asking for this.
Good catch, Katie.
Um, All right.
It's not a
Thank you.
start, but it's the beginning of a long story. Yes.
But anytime you need any information, we always have it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lisa.
welcome.
I
Well, thank
greatly
you for
appreciate
working
it.
with me on
I
it.
appreciate, you taking the time to sit down
Sure.
and let me understand it a little bit better. I heard you say that normally we would get these a little bit closer to the end of the quarter. Can you give us a better sense of that? Is like, you think,
It would be, for
Or
example,
6
end of September would be somewhere towards maybe the second meeting in October.
okay, so about a month
Yeah.
after the end of the quarter.
Right, because there's certain closing things that we have to do and analysis.
Absolutely. Okay. And I did want to call out and thank you. And I would hope that you would extend our gratitude to your office staff for the continued success on the investment front. I know we had quite a unexpected increase in investment money with the last fiscal year to the tune of like $600,000 almost. And it's, I know that requires a lot of work. And it's great news for the Tolland taxpayers because you're utilizing our tax dollars to bring in even more dollars. So thank you very much for that, and please extend that
I
to
will
your
certainly
hard
share
working
that with
staff.
Chris Jordan, my assistant, who basically manages most of the investments. I oversee it, but he does all the moving of money and scrambling around with it all.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So there's no action item on this. We will move on to 8.4, which is a consideration of a resolution for ARPA subcommittee funding. Brian.
Thank
this was
you.
Left over from our last meeting.
Correct. This is bounced over from our last meeting, and this is consideration for council to allow us to use ARPA funding to purchase a new dump truck and a used road grader down the road. This is money that would have been in our capital plan. And we're looking to move that out. And with us to talk about it tonight, if you have any questions, are both Lisa, our financial director, and Scott Lappman, our director of DPW, who I don't believe you have met yet. In the coming weeks, in one of our meetings, he will have an opportunity to introduce himself, tell what his department do. Some of his one of his assistant directors will be here as well, and just kind of go over what they do, how they operate, concerns, and just kind of for you guys to get familiar with DPW. But that's not for tonight. He's here to answer any questions in relation to this ARPA agenda item that I can answer.
Thank you. And I also would like to thank you, Brian, and the staff that supported you in sending out an email to answer some of the questions that came in from various council members, including some questions on this particular item. So hopefully we've all had a chance to peek at that email, and it will be included in our minutes packet. So thank you. Are there questions, additional questions from council members on the use of ARPA funds for these two items? Any additional questions?
So I have a couple.
Go ahead,
I
Jeff.
actually listened to the subcommittee meeting that you had back in, I think it was October or something.
think
like
so.
that. And I appreciate too, by the way, Colleen, that you and Tammy, in your discussions on this too, that you guys said, let's not make a rash decision about this, because, the next town council has to look at this, and we don't want to sort of shove this in their first meeting. So that was very, very thoughtful, you guys, to consider that. So I went through it, and I agree that dump truck seems to make most sense. Like I said, that was your highest priority, was to make sure you get on a dump truck. And I was also quite shocked at how long a truck lasts. The last truck you had was only 10 years old, and it's completely, it said it's very seriously rusted out. It barely has any miles on it. And I was quite surprised that it rusted so quickly. So it doesn't seem like the life of these trucks is very long. But we also indicated that the new truck's not gonna be used like that truck. So hopefully we get more life out of it than 10 years and 32,000 miles, especially.
Well,
considering-
to expand on that a little bit, 4 years ago, we put in a big addition on the highway garage where we have a beautiful wash bay now. So we're able to get underneath.
Back with spray out.
Right.
Under-
I was wondering, why didn't it just get cleaned instead of rusting out, but that's why.
And I have a question.
Oh, no, hold on, still.
Yes, that's right. So, bear with me now. So it seems pretty clear that we need a dump truck. The question and concern I have is on the grader itself. So, I looked at it and you said there's a $55,000 annual budget to take care of those 8 miles of dirt roads. 25,000 goes to the subcontractor that actually does the grading right now every spring. And, it doesn't seem like a bad deal, $25,000 a year to have another company, deal with the labor hours, the maintenance, repair, and replacement of the equipment that Tolland doesn't have to worry about. And the payback here, assuming that that the only cost we're talking about, which isn't going to be the only cost, is the vehicle itself, if we can find one for $100,000. I guess that's still a question that's up in the air as to whether or not we can find one for $100,000. how much, how old will that vehicle be? And what are the annual costs, maintenance costs of that vehicle? Because these aren't cheap, you know, it's not like your average car where you just throw a set of tires on it and it's $800. You know, the cost of repairing these things and maintaining these things is a lot higher. So you have those costs, additional costs, which is gonna extend the payback period here. And then there's also a person that we currently have working in our garage that time is now gonna be taken away from something else that he was probably doing to run this vehicle up and down the road. So I question whether or not there's strong enough benefit, and I'm not questioning the fact that your department needs money. I know it needs money, so it's not a question of, okay, you know, you guys are spending too much money. I don't think you're spending too much money, but I just question the true benefit of this one. It seems like we're getting a really good deal from the subcontractor on this particular.
Scott, am I correct in that the availability becomes an issue? That we only use the subcontract, I believe, was it twice a year? Once a year. And so with this, and if you follow social media, when there's a rainstorm and the dirt road gets washed out, we start to catch all kinds of heck. And so this would certainly, one of the main benefits would be to have that machine available to run out after. And this was one heck of a year to demonstrate that after the rains. And I believe the recovery of material too, Scott, as well, that's a savings too?
Yes, I mean, I don't know what you know about graders, but they scrape from the edge, bring it back to the middle, regrade. We do have to supplement some materials at certain times, but when we have roads washed out, after this grading has been done in like late April or early May, once all the frost is on the ground, if we get a rainstorm in June or July that washes it out, we have to go out with dump trucks with processed ground and a payloader. The payloader's got a flat plate. They can't scrape any material back, so he's just going down. We've spent over $20,000 this year just since July on gravel, which we wouldn't have spent if we had a grader, because you can reclaim from the edges and regrade
And put it back in. So I guess there's another cost that you have to think about, but I'd really like to see the total costs, not just the cost of the grader itself, to understand what the true payback is. And then the question is, how long does a grader last? I think, Brian, you had mentioned, you know, okay, maybe we can get 10, 12 years out of it.
Yep.
Depending on the age of the grader that we buy. And then the question is, okay, 10 years from now, you know, a lot of these companies aren't required to keep parts for these things. So even if you do have for 10 years, you may have a harder time getting parts for it, and then we're back to square one again, where we're buying another grader in 8 to 10 years, and what's our true cost savings there? So I just don't think there's enough information here to make a educated decision about this, at my point. But I'm done.
Okay, Alex, you were next.
Yeah, just quickly, I appreciate you coming out, Scott. I know you're hiding behind folks there. Or I can't see.
I can be back.
So I think the good news there is that some of us didn't know that there's a washing system for the trucks, which is great. Just an edification point for me. Is there a process that we're going through for like a fluid film on the cross members and the frame for the trucks?
Yes, we use, it's actually called New Hampshire oil when we bring in brand new vehicles, and after the vehicles have gone for like a winter and we wash. Our mechanics go underneath, they spray everything. It's a greasy mix, but it's done before the winter time. So that any places where the salt could hide, it adds that barrier. But the system that we have designed out there, like it's, when you turn it on, the spray goes about 15 feet in the air. So it's kind of hard to hide.
Yeah.
You know, in the nooks and crannies.
Well, that's good. I have another just quick question. I think that in the email, Brian, you were saying that we have a licensed rendering company that will come for the reusables for the grader. The disposable waste, is that something that we have to pay for with the scale of the oil?
Pay for them to come take our oil?
Yeah,
I believe that is a budgeted item. I can't remember. Is it? Yes.
so is that something that will increase with a machine of this size?
It'd be minimal because
Okay.
it's, 4 or 5 gallons of oil a year. that's in that machine.
And then the other question I had is, you know, if we're subletting another company to be doing this, once a year. I just think it would, you know, the first question I would ask would, you know, what is the cost to maintenance their machine? You know, if something breaks, and I wouldn't wanna see us go down the rabbit hole of, you know, it's not a town mower, it's a giant machine.
Right.
And, I just would hate to see us go down that rabbit hole, you know, like, Joe was saying, a certain piece of the machine that we can't get because it's, you know, the trucks that I use daily, we have parts that are just, we can't get. Never mind a grader that may be 5 years old or a grader that may be 10. So,
Yeah, and I understand that concern, but just as Lisa alluded to, these auditing companies are having hard times keeping staff. The firm that comes in right now that does it for us is from New Hampshire. We can't find anybody around here that offers this service anymore. So, and when this gentleman retires, he's probably close to 70 when he says that's it.
Right. Would you say that that's been an increased cost throughout the years of this gentleman's time? Being such a specific ask for them to do?
I just started my 9th year with Tolland, and we've been pretty close to that $25,000 mark every year for him to connect. It's the fluctuation is the liquid calcium that we put on the road afterwards to for dust control and tar surface.
Thank you for reading.
Okay, sorry, it's been a little while. So one thing I hear that we can't do with using an outside company is just kind of do this on demand, fix the roads when we need to fix the roads, correct?
Correct.
So what are some of the issues we run into by having to wait until, I believe it says after the frost is broken to do this once a year? What kind of issues do we run into by waiting?
I'll start, Scott.
Go ahead.
One, communications wise, we take a beating, public confidence, public trust in our abilities to manage the town. Both on public Facebook pages, when the roads get damaged. Then you start hearing about people in their cars getting damaged as a result of their yards getting washed out, their driveway aprons getting washed out, which starts to reflect back on DPW, and they typically don't want to hear. It can only come out once a year when their road's got a, when a river going through it now. So that's my start. Scott, what do you have?
Along those lines, we get out there as quick as, we can't go out too early, because if everything tightens up again, we get a hard frost in. It kind of defeats the purpose, because then it's gonna turn to, the moisture is underneath, the top's gonna turn and body gets all rutted, and we're right back to where we were prior to grading everything. So we try to let the frost and moisture get out of the ground. We can go out and backplate with our payloaders prior to them coming in, just to knock down some of these ruts, but we certainly can't reestablish a crown in the road the way you can with a grader.
So have people in town experienced property damage as a result of having to wait to have the roads, I guess, regraded?
Scott, any driveway apron complaints on the dirt roads?
It's not just aprons, but it's their front yards, because once that water started, you take Johnson Road, for instance, I mean, we've had ruts out there 2 feet deep. We have to go out and fill them immediately. If somebody falls in that with a car, it's not a very wide road, and somebody pulls off to the side to allow the other vehicle to come through, there's gonna be serious damage, and where the gravel roads are a huge priority for us after rainstorm.
So essentially, if we have this vehicle and we can do this on demand, then we may be able to prevent these headaches for people living in town who have to deal with this problem and live on these roads.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Just a quick question, sort of building off Jen. I know like under our existing sort of policy, we have the contractor come out once a year. How often would you foresee needing to use the grader if we purchase it? I know you mentioned you have to go out with, gravel and other trucks to try to fix the roads? Like, how often do you typically need to do that? How often would you be able to use the grader in a given year?
If it was an average year, probably 2-3 times, but with some of these, rainstorms, we've been out there, put the entire crew up. 2 different payloaders, backhoes, just because we can't, I mean, 8 miles of road is a lot of road to cover when you're, moving at, very slow speed.
Thank you.
And it's just my opinion based on this discussion. Again, thank you, Scott, for coming here and Brian for answering your questions. It's been very helpful. And it seems like in terms like the finances of it, it's either modest benefit, potentially a wash. I think, the maintenance cost is that's a very real question. I think it seems like the real benefit would just be having that device in-house and it kind of allow you to do the roads when you need them to. So I guess my real question is, and this will be more for an Harper question.
Okay.
So,
Hopefully there's 3 of us here.
yeah, like, what's the opportunity cost of doing this, I guess? Like, if we're spending the money here, is there anything else super pressing right now that we're not?
For funds that are left.
Yeah, and I know there's a balance, but that's kind of where my head's.
Yeah, it's hard, cause I think, we have like over $800,000, so we're trying to, at our next meeting together. I think Lisa has some stuff and she really works on the capital budget and, so Lisa would know better what items are a focus for us as a committee to deal with, especially when the money's getting lower and lower. Even at that last ARPA meeting, Joe listened to it. There are 3 top priorities. I don't mean to take away from you, but 3 priorities. And I asked Scott which one it was. Figured he would say, I want the facility over the truck. But he actually went for these 2 items. So, which kind of messed up Lisa a little bit in her capital. And so we really don't know, to be honest, Jacob, without Lisa presenting more items, but we like to use that money most likely for capital items. Yes, what, I mean, I don't know if that answers, I don't really have a straight answer because it's month to month what is presented. And if you or whoever community member had an idea, it certainly can be sent to us. And then we talk about it. So I would say it's a pretty fluent meetings that we have.
We currently have a list, and a lot of it's online as well. I think we showed that last time also.
Yeah.
And there's different things being considered. What we tend to try to do is anything first that would be covered by debt, where we'd issue bonds, we try to use other sources if we can. And these 2 items were in the capital plan with identified as being paid for with bond money, which would cost us more in the long run because you have to pay interest and push it out for the life of the asset. So that's why these 2 were pulled out, and there's actually one more that once we've finished the capital plan, reorganizing everything, there'll be one more coming forward as a consideration to the subcommittee to then may or may not come to all of you. So, those were the things that usually take priority in the use of those funds.
So if we,
Did you have any more questions?
No.
Okay, all right, so I have a couple questions before I go around for a second time. Scott, I know that it's gonna take staff time and energy to run this machine. However, you talked about using staff time and energy to make road repairs. It's kind of a big picture question, but do you think having this machine would ultimately save you some staff time? All things being equal?
I would say yes, because we won't be, typically if we send a payloader out, we have at least 2 trucks with them hauling gravel. We won't have to bring in that much gravel when you're using a grader, because again, they're reclaiming it from the edges and reusing it.
Okay. And, there was some conversation about, the ultimate, is this worth doing based on the contractor. You know, you work really closely with Lisa to develop your capital budget and your operating budget. Do you think this purchase is worth making based on, you know, the finances that you are typically given from the town on a year-to-year basis?
I do. Lisa can attest to the fact that when Steve Wagner was here, I brought this up. Back then, it was a $60,000 grader. And I said to him at that time, when I said 3 years, it's paid for. And somehow it lit off the budget paperwork, and I'm back again.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Joe, for a second time.
Yeah, just a question about the remaining balance, the 800,000. So I know we need a new facilities building that's in the capital budget, or it's scheduled to be in the capital budget that we start in December. Can we use the 800,000 and reduce the capital budget by that?
Absolutely.
Money?
If that proposal is brought forward as a discussion point to the subcommittee, it could. That actually was part of the last, which I understand.
Right.
They wanted to leave it to this council to make that decision because it was a major expense. But certainly that would be, you know, it would finish off what's left. That project is looking at almost $1.2 million.
Right.
So that would take a good chunk off of debt issuance.
Yeah, the shortfall became, I think, because of the sidewalk. We guys decided to keep the sidewalk and give up the funds. And that's what. For now. Right, right. That can change in a month or two. And that's where the shortfall came in then for the building. Okay. When you mentioned that rut, the one on Johnson, I think you said, so would a grader help on something that's like 2 feet deep and 8 feet across? Or I mean, you're still gonna need to bring in a truck with additional gravel to fill something like that. Can't we cover?
Something that deep we would have to, or you go down to the bottom of the hill with the payloader as you, and reclaim it and bring it back up.
Okay.
If you go out on those gravel roads, you'll see different areas where the stuff gets just pushed off to the side because it's difficult to try to work it with a payloader.
Yeah, I'm not against grader, I'd just like to see more of the true costs besides just the grader itself. To make a decision on that one, if that's possible, yet.
I really couldn't, I mean, our grader is long gone. It was rusted solid. It hadn't moved in years.
We have one?
We did. It was about 40 years old. That bad. Yeah, so for us to try to, come up with a realistic figure as to what maintenance, I would have to reach out to, contractors who use graders and see what they, and then depending on what they're doing, I mean, if they're just grading, for a finished road, or if they're grading parking lots, might not be as abusive as, what we're gonna be up against, because we do have some rocks in this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it is a pretty abusive, task for those graders to take these dirt roads and try to bring back a lot of that fill. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, for a second time, go ahead, Chris.
Just a quick, ARPA subcommittee question, Colleen.
I never
These,
usually get
these,
questions.
I don't know, what the process is. Did these two items come unanimously out of the ARPA subcommittee when you guys had discussed it? Like, was that something that was agreed upon by
They did, there was a long discussion, about it. The first item, which seems like everybody's in favor of truck 32. We had talked about, Scott needed to, a year ago, we decided to put one in and hold off on this one. But if I remember right, on truck 32, is it, even if you ordered it now, it would take a couple of years?
It's a year and a half right now.
Okay, so that was part of it, and plus we had vetted it out so long. And then I think the grader came up really quicker. But I mean, for 110,000, I get what I think Joe's saying, is there depreciation on it? How long will it last? Those are all great questions, but to me, if it's already in the capital and it's 110, it's a lot, but it's not the $1.2 million. But I guess that's a lot to talk about too, like, we'd love to revisit that, but Yeah, it was voted on, and we all know Tammy, she loves to ask great questions,
Yeah.
and if it gets past her, sometimes I feel like, you know, but, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're all set, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, so for a second time, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so again, no problem with the dump truck. I think it makes a lot of sense. I just for road grader, my personal feeling is, like Joe, I'm not against it. But I would love, you know, if we have a first or meeting just to look at the sheet a little bit. I'm just on the fence to a point where I'd like to just dive into that fund a little bit more before I commit to voting for that appropriation.
What are you looking for?
I'd just like to have a more general in-depth discussion, but, you know, see an ARPA subcommittee meeting.
I thought we sent that.
Is that?
We sent the ARPA subcommittee meeting, regarding this, and you might not have gotten it from your email,
Oh, okay,
issues, but we certainly,
okay.
certainly sent that out.
We referred to it in our last meeting.
Yeah,
all of that
okay. Something
information.
else too, when I got here, and I think I explained in our interviews, I hate buying new things. I hate buying things, used things, anythings, and, as my colleagues will tell you, with public safety and DPW, and as a resident my entire life, and, I'm gonna screen the heck out of anything. And I'm gonna go after Scott for everything in his capital budget, and this was in the capital budget prior to this, approved, previous capital budgets. Then I'm gonna go to Lisa and say, do we need this? Do we really need this? You know, and, can we afford it? And is the responsible thing, and I still don't like it. But this is something that I felt, I think it is to the benefit of the entire town. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the questions. I understand that, as I said before, ask away, awesome. But understand that we are doing our due diligence to make sure we are acting so responsibly. And let me go back to, I don't like buying things, at all. So I'm really trying to be the best goalie I can, in regards to letting that stuff, get through. But I believe in this. That's all. Thanks.
Nope.
Alex, for the second time. You're set. Okay, we have in our packet a motion or resolution 8.4. The resolution 8.4 is to approve the use of $405,000 in ARPA funding for the dump truck and the used grader. Is there a motion to approve this resolution? Chris made the motion, Jen seconded. Okay, any discussion?
I just want to say a little, sorry.
Go ahead, I'll begin first for a second.
No, again, I get what everybody, Jacob and Joe and Alex, I think they're all great questions, but again, it's something that was really vetted out through ARPA, unanimously from a well-esteemed finance director, like Brian says, he is a stickler on equipment. I know that. Very- As we'll all find out as we go, which is great, right? But I know Scott really needs this, and I just feel very strongly that when we do things, you'll see Jacob, when we work together, it doesn't come out of the subcommittee very lightly, so I hope we can get at least bipartisan support on this item.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Just with the question I had asked Brian in the original meeting was what the ARPA fund was seeking to achieve, and it just seemed like the answer was reinvigorating the community. I think we unanimously came to a decision for the monies awarded to Crandall's.
To the recreation
Right.
funding, yep.
I think that was at least in my opinion, I think that was unanimous, just based on where that money was going. And, my fervent opinion on that is that I think the community would see got so many people excited about that program being cheaper for families that are struggling right now and families with kids. Again, I'm not against this machine, but with what this fund stands for and where that money is going, that was my only you know, intended to with that, so.
Lisa, this is an allowed expense under
Yeah.
ARPA, right?
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Is there any other questions, discussion?
Is it possible to pull 100? Again, I'm not against it. I just think we need more information. To pull that out of this and vote in favor of the truck and then seek additional information about the true cost of this grader.
So we have a motion before us, to approve, this resolution for both items and a second. So I'd like to move forward and vote on the motion that is in front of us. Any other questions? No, okay. We're gonna do a roll call vote for this one, because it sounds like we might not.
Can I just should we, do them separately since cause I think the motion was together, seems like one has more attention, but can we do the dump truck as one vote and then the grader as another? Because the motion.
Are you open to changing the motion, or would you like to move forward with this motion, and if it doesn't pass, we can reconsider?
Either way, I mean, I'm just saying that some people might rather just, I don't know.
I hear what you're saying.
We can vote on it as is,
Yeah,
that was the motion that was made.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just.
Yeah.
sure. So we'll do a roll call vote on this item. Jen,
Aye.
Jacob,
Abstain.
okay, Chris, Alex, okay. Joe,
You're going nay.
Colleen,
I'm sorry.
No.
and I am a yes, so that is 4 yeses, 2 abstentions, and a no, and that my item passes. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Willett and Miss Gallichan, thank you so much for sitting here. Since 6:15 this evening, it's been 2.5 hours that we have been blessed with your company this evening. Thank you so much for your patience. For the record, we did have an executive session to discuss this contract earlier tonight. Are there any other questions that are appropriate for public discussion before we make a motion on this collective bargaining agreement? Okay. So we have in front of us the option to make a resolution on this bargaining agreement. I'm wondering if there is a motion that's not in our packet, but to approve and accept the bargaining agreement between the Board of Ed and the Teachers Association.
Again, I was reading.
Sure. Sure, so there's two resolutions that are in our packet. One is not to reject it. One is to reject it. And I was asking if there is a motion that is not either of those things, but instead to accept the bargaining agreement that has been presented to us between the Board of Ed and Teachers Association.
yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
So Chris makes that motion.
I do.
1 second. Joe is seconding it. So again, the motion in front of us right now is not in our packet, but is to accept the contract agreement between the Board of Education and the Teachers Association. Okay. Is there any discussion on this item before we, yes?
I thank you for the suggestion of affirmatively accepting it. I think it's important that our teachers, are adequately compensated, and so I think it's good that we can, affirmatively accept the hard work that the superintendent and Jen Gallichan and everybody else put into it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Go ahead, Jen.
I just want to say that I think it's important to stay competitive, but I think more importantly to show our teachers that we support them by showing them what they're worth. And I'm very happy that this agreement was put forth.
Any other comments? I would say that one of the best parts of the education system here in Tolland are the teachers. And I certainly, understand that we can't always, fund everything that, the Board of Education would like to, but I hope that this sends a message that, the Board of Ed and Town Council are both voting to approve this agreement, and support our teachers. Are there any other comments? Okay, we'll do this one by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that is unanimous. Thank you both very much. Thank you so much for sticking around and giving us your time. The next item on our agenda is 8.6, which is the discussion of setting a workshop to review the town's vision statement and identify goals and set up activities for the town council for our brand new term. Brian, do you want to give us a little bit of
Yes.
context
Give
here?
me a second here.
You know,
There it is. Okay.
the teachers'
And I
conference.
included in your packet, you'll see that the existing, visions and mission statements are there. There's also been talk of doing a strategic plan. Opinions may vary on, all of this stuff, and this would be a discussion, about that.
Thank you.
Oh, page buck 40.
Yes, page 140.
Thank you.
Yeah. What kind of a workshop were you thinking about?
I wasn't, you were you're the champion. Well, I said opinions vary. I was definitely not thinking of one.
Okay. Fair, fair. I could just tell you from context in our last council, we did this, I think December, January of their first year, and we did a whole meeting, right? Just one meeting? Where that's all we did in that meeting?
Think, I'm trying to recall, I know we were setting goals. Yeah, I think we did have a separate goal setting meeting.
Okay. And it was, I think we suspended our rules to have a free flowing collaborative conversation. So we could really work together to talk about various goals and objectives.
Well, this is different. I know we're gonna have a meeting on setting council goals.
Oh. We're talking about two.
Oh, the vision statement.
Yes,
This is vision statement.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one step before goals.
yes, this is something entirely different. But the goal thing is great. I can't wait for that. I can wait for this, but yes, go ahead.
So the vision statement are the goals fit kind of within the vision statement. The
Yes.
goals are the actions to implement the
In
vision.
theory, there's gonna be goals that council has that are outside of our, or not as clearly defined, in the goals, like last time, hire a town manager, as much regret as some may have.
No.
No, but that's not like in the vision statement, you know what I mean? Like, things like that are gonna. fall.
That was a specific
Yes.
goal within the vision statement.
Yes.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
So this might not actually, I know it took us quite a while to kind of work through all the various goals we wanted to work through. Maybe this isn't a
Which I think is
3-hour
great
meeting.
for a council meeting.
Yes.
And we should dedicate, and maybe even have a workshop prior to or something along those lines.
Okay,
And I know Lisa has some documentation that she provided me the last time, that I went through as well. That we can certainly use as a guide. This is a vision statement and a mission statement that we have, on file for our town. I believe it goes into does it go into our budget plan as well?
It goes into our budget book, it goes into,
yeah, and you included it here, right here, and
Yep.
okay. One of the things that Jacob and I had talked about was perhaps having it on the 26th. I know it sounds like maybe that date may not be the best date. That's 20, did I say 25th? 26th. The 26th. Yes, we have a regular council meeting that day.
I'll be there for that.
Okay. We had talked about having, one of the alternate dates that the four of us had talked about was on, a special meeting on the 19th. to do the vision statement.
That
Yeah.
would work better for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. So then we'd like to do that on the 19th.
Got it.
yeah.
So I'd ask you, give it a read,
Yep,
tinker around with other towns and see what you like and don't like, and let's see, what you throw on, whatever you guys decide, I'm happy to throw together, so.
awesome.
And would this be instead of the 26th, there would be no 26th meeting, or there would be, we just wouldn't discuss it?
I haven't seen what we need to do for the 26th. I do believe there's been a lot of, questions about whether we should have that meeting, so it sounds like we might have very low attendance on December 26th.
Yes.
Maybe we can decide to cancel that meeting, and if we need to schedule a special meeting for that week, to deal with any town business that needs to be addressed.
We'll work through that process
We can do that,
as it
yeah.
approaches,
Okay.
whichever you decide.
Okay, so I think at this point, we can agree that we're going to have a special meeting on the 19th. And we will cancel the regular meeting on the 26th. I think we don't need to vote on that, I think. We're just gonna.
And just to make things clear, this is, on the 19th, are we looking to revise the mission statement or the vision statement?
Sure. Yeah,
For what?
for the benefit of the town.
Okay.
If you think it needs revision, some, it's
So where-
perfect already.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So where is this coming from?
Well, this came from me. I want to make sure that our council, our brand new council, is comfortable with this vision statement pertaining to town services and a mission statement for the town of Tolland.
Couldn't we vote on that now? I think this looks great.
I don't think we can vote on it now, but it was here when I got here.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's just never been formally approved or something?
And do you know the
Lisa,
answer, Lisa?
Yes, this was done many, many years ago. Under Steve Warbner, there was a whole entire process that goes through strategic planning and putting a vision and mission statement together. There may have been a consultant involved where it included reaching out to various commissions, citizens, department heads, council, to develop your overall vision for the town. Once you get your vision together, then it was approved. It went, there's, I think it's back in 2009 or so. I'm not sure of the date. I think I had.
There was
researched
actually a
it.
task force that.
Yeah.
Maybe task force, not the right word, but a workshop.
Mhm.
It might have involved some staff, some council, some community, and they came up with this.
And it took several months to do if you're formally working on a new vision statement, if that's. But this is where everybody came together, had their input, and they developed what they wanted to see for a vision for the town of, services to be addressed and needs, citizens, the things that they felt were important at the time for the town. Then what usually happens from that, you have your mission, results from that, but then you get down to your goals with your strategic planning and all that goes with it. But usually your goals are based off of your vision.
Sure. Yep. That answer your question?
yeah, I just think reading through this, I don't know if it would be unanimous or not. I think this looks great. Brian, with you having paramilitary experience and, having vision statements being right on the front page and a mission statement,
I'm open to those. Someone wants to make a suggestion to change or tinker with it, Katie, I'm fine. And as far as, we're not gonna have our own special meeting on just this. If
Okay.
we're
Thank
gonna move that 26th meeting and come here, I don't think we need to get together just this. I got a laundry list that I can throw on there, of items that we can cover on the 19th, most likely. If that's not the case, we just looked at the 12th. Is that the one we looked at today? The one prior to that we just looked at. But I wouldn't want to force the issue just for this, but thank you. But I'm open to whatever you all decide is, I'm happy with, as you'll see in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Just get a quick clarification on the timeline, because I was a little confused too, because I initially my mind went straight to goals, not this, so. Plan would be to review this on the 19th. See what we think about it, go from there. what would be the timeline for the goals? Would you want this to be nailed down? I'm just wondering if.
I think we would determine that timeline on the 19th
Okay,
based on the discussion we had that day.
okay. Let's see where it goes from there. Okay.
Yeah, so we could, that is the next step. And I think part of opening this discussion is to make sure we know the path we're gonna go down.
Okay, yeah. So back in my mind, 2-year term goes by fast. So I just wanted to see. what
Absolutely.
was,
It does go by fast.
And
Yep.
the goals is important.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll get everyone the previous goals, they get an idea what we're doing, what's in there. Obviously, Joe, you've seen it before, but they're lofty, and they may take all of 2 years or longer.
Mhm.
And so you'll get a look at those. We hit off almost most of ours, right?
Yeah, we only, one we didn't do is get done with the firehouses, but yeah, we
No,
know that.
there's more on there, but yeah,
No, I mean, we got done a lot of,
we addressed that,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And things change. You're gonna make your goals. And then in, a year and a half, you'll realize something, God knows what could happen in this world. That maybe that goal is no longer possible. So they're great. I think it's a great framework, and this is a home base for it. Some may think it matters more than others. That's fine. The goals are really important, and we'll use it as a basis. So
Go ahead. You all set, Jacob?
Yeah,
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So I think the idea of going to look at and consider, discuss the vision statement and mission statement, it's important because then our goals are driven by based on what the vision and mission statements are. And so the idea being like, whatever changes, if any, we make to these things, we're doing that so that way that will help direct the goals that then we will generate. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So it sounds like we have a plan that we will meet on, we'll have our regular meeting on December 12th. We'll have a special meeting regarding regarding vision and mission on December 19th. At this point, we are not going to meet, we will not have a regular meeting on the 26th. If a special meeting is needed towards the end of December to address any urgent town business, Jacob and I will be talking to the town manager about that, and we'll communicate that back out. So the next item on our agenda, did you have more questions? No? Okay. So the next item on our agenda is appointment of town council liaisons to various boards and commissions. I appreciate everyone's patience as we made a few last minute adjustments today. I did email out a version 2 list of assignments for boards and commissions. Lisa has them as well, so they will go in the minutes packet. And every board and commission is covered. I did want to call out a few things in particular. The first is regarding Board of Education. Jacob and I had a conversation, and I hope to have a conversation soon. I did leave a message with the new chair of the Board of Ed earlier today. And it is our hope that we can have meetings of the chairs and vice chairs of Board of Ed, the 4 of us together on a monthly basis, instead of having someone from town council go to every single Board of Ed meeting and a Board of Ed member come to every single town council meeting. That's a big lift for anyone to have to cover, even on a rotating basis. Jacob has obviously a lot of familiarity with Board of Education, and I certainly look forward to having some collaborative discussions to make sure that we're doing appropriate communications across the boards. So that is the current plan. As I said, haven't had a chance to connect with the new board and chair, as he was just elected last night, but I hope that works out well. There has been a request for an alternate liaison to be assigned to the Historic District Commission. And unless there's any objection to that, I know, Alex, you had interest in being a liaison to Historic District Commission. I've been doing that for 2 years, so I'm going to continue to do that. But in the past, we have had an alternate liaison to Historic District Commission. And if there's no objection, I'd like to kind of reinstate that role and have Alex, if you're willing to do that as well, with your other things. So we'll we'll add that to our list so that you can continue to work with the Historic District Commission. That's, thank you for that.
Thank you.
There's a lot going on there, so thank you. And then just per our rules and procedures, as you saw on our agenda, every week, every time we have a meeting, a regular meeting, we do cover a summary of what happened in our assigned liaison roles. Again, per our rules and procedures, counselors should identify the board or commission they represent, and they should briefly summarize the meeting from that board or commission. So that is, as we approved at our last meeting, kind of the expectation for that portion of our agenda. Are there any questions, concerns? Yes.
Just want to thank the chair and vice chair for working with me today to maintain some balance, and I want to thank you for maintaining the entire appointments, the balance across and representing everybody. So I really appreciate that. Sorry to be a headache there.
No problem. Thank you for bringing up your questions too, Brian. Thank you. Yep, and I think that, as Brian said, we do have a nice balance going on here with these things, and I look forward to working with each of you as these boards and commissions kind of interchange their relationship with the town council. All right, next we go on to item number 9, which is old business. We have none. We're rolling along. 10, report of the town manager. It's your turn, Brian.
Roll along. I'm gonna bring it to a halt. Let's try to keep it rolling on. I'm gonna go fast here. Firehouse 340 over on Garen Road, which the vice chair and Colleen and I are gonna go examine soon. The property was paved today, the driveway and parking lot area. I believe was final finish paved today. It took, they've got an earlier coat earlier in the week, and now the final one. The steel building, good news, has arrived, and the panels, so it's all here. It's not, it's at our contractor has it at their facility, but it's here, so that's gonna start to move along, pretty close to as scheduled. When we first started out, so we're in good shape, not running too far behind. In regards to the firehouses, the other two that we're needing fixing, there's a remaining balance that we have left of the original 5 million, and it's 1 point something. We're working with the firehouse, the committee, to decide how that's being done. Some notes, or an important note is that the Crystal Lake Firehouse 140, the foundation was inspected last week. They dug around it, dug out. There's been no deterioration, no movement, as our engineers had suspected. We will likely try to improve upon that even more by adding some additional draining to really keep it dry, so that the firehouse is actually in really good shape out there. So we will consider that in moving forward. Some stuff kicking around. It's going to be a busy day on the green on Saturday. The tree lighting, tree lighting in the evening. The Arts of Tolland has something all day across the street there, and the sale, I believe, of some reasons and such over there, and they're just fantastic people and great residents or renters of our building there. So we would like them to please support them. Dick Stearns has an event as well all day here on the green. I ask you to pop over there. It's going to be a good day. And you know, I'm usually kicking around at a lot of those events. Saturday might be tough for me, but I welcome you all to come and invite you to come while we're there. Last year when I got here, I reached out to a Jewish federation in Glastonbury to do a menorah lighting. They were happy to do it. They don't do it every year in Tolland, but they try to come here every once in a while. As long as I'm here, I'm gonna beg, borrow, and steal to try to get them over here. And they are going to be here on December 11th, lighting of the menorah. It's a big giant menorah right out here. And it's fantastic. They have a big lift, and they throw candy out of the top, and the kids go nuts. It's a lot of fun. They have, I believe, apple cider or hot chocolate, and I'll keep you posted on that and promote it as it gets closer. I would just remind you of the world climate, and that was something that really meant a lot to me, to reach out to the rabbi and say, please come again this year. And he was very, very appreciative of our reaching out, and wrote so in an email when we spoke. So we have a great relationship with them. Public safety, again, I'm going to look to do quarterly reports on the crime in our town. I'm going to look to improve a lot of things. Our high school football game, there was a fight at the high school afterwards, and I believe an arrest made. I have nothing, no one's told me anything. I got that from people. I get nothing from the state police in regards to notification. That's something as we move forward, I'm looking to improve upon in an MOU, which is very important to me. So state police is coming in a couple weeks to talk about the need for a sergeant in here. Keep in mind, a sergeant costs more than I believe most troopers, even the most senior. And can, I'll talk to the chair and vice chair, and then you can caucus. But next week, they're gonna come and talk about the need for a sergeant. That's for you to decide. But really, it's for you to decide during the operations part of our budget in regards to how many troopers or how much we want to spend on the state trooper program. Again, the more junior the officer, the more we save, but at the same time, you know, a junior officer might need more supervision. And when you become a resident trooper in the town, sometimes you get less supervision. So they'll talk about the need for a sergeant. Opinions will vary, again, but we'll likely decide nothing at this meeting. And anything we do decide would be temporary, and then pending the operations budget where we present in public safety, we have X amount of troopers and this is how much we're gonna spend. And we decide, you could say we need more, we need less. Here's the bottom line. No one in this room, including myself, knows if we need more or if we need less. We have no way of determining that other than guessing. We have zero data, nothing to determine whether we need anything. Wellington has no resident troopers, and they're a safe town as well. I'm happy with the 4 that we have going here, but I'm certainly open to any suggestions. But we need data. Professional police departments have data, plus professional police departments have crime reports. So that'll be coming in our next council meeting, and I want to meet with the chair and vice chair. The third ambulance is almost ready.
It's a backup ambulance, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, the Muck Valley Hood third ambulance.
And I
They'll-
do not want to be in that.
Right. I don't want you in it either.
I know. Lost your brain.
The ladder is close too. Again, the ladder was something that I saw in the capital budget, spending 2.1 on a ladder here in Tolland. It gave me fits and nightmares. And we got it down to 600,000 basically for a used ladder truck that should last, I'm hoping, 20 years. Again, so we were working to really, and we're making some more improvements on the capital budget side with public safety as well. Speaking of which, capital improvements, thanks to the hard work of Lisa and her staff, is wrapping up. We should have that presented in a couple weeks or less, I believe.
Next week.
Geez. We're doing a lot of hiring. We hired an assistant human services director, starts in a couple weeks. Hired an administrative assistant for DPW, comes in a couple weeks. We're in the process of hiring a library director as well as a library staff person. That process is ongoing, as well as a DPW labor are out there. Also, the tax collector, we're hiring a new tax collector. All of these, we've had some pretty good applicants and a robust applicant pool that we're working through. I mentioned the skating rink earlier. The skating rink hopefully is, we're watching the weather with Scott. It's difficult to predict, and people think because there's a layer of ice across Crambles right now, we should have our ice rink down there, and that's really not how it works. If we put the rink out there and the ice is not completely solid and someone skates on it and damages it, that's not good for us. If we put the rink out there ahead of the cold and kids come and just ride their bikes on it and damage it, that is not good for us. So we have to be careful in how we approach it. We already had a meeting at Crandall's prior to the new council, but I met with Bruce Watt. You'll have a chance to meet him here at council, our rec director and Director Lappin and some of his staff, and just kind of start the pre-planning on how we're going to do it. I think it's going to be fantastic if Mother Nature plays along. Last year, Mother Nature did not play along, but hopefully we have some more cold weather, and if we do, we should be able to get some use out of that skating rink. That's all I have.
Does anyone have any questions? Brian?
Brian, I just wanted to say thank you for the reaching out to the rabbi.
Yeah.
That specific part to the parade is very good. Great.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
Love it.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for that update. Very thorough. Okay. All right, any more questions for Brian? No. All right, so the next. Fast, I couldn't hear him.
That was my intent.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is adoption of minutes. I sent an email requesting some updates to the minutes yesterday. I would ask that, the council that we do not vote on the minutes tonight and instead wait for the requested updates to be incorporated and then sent back out to us, so we have enough time to read them. And then we can consider adoption of minutes at our next regular meeting for the previous meeting and tonight. Is there any objection to moving forward with that? All right, so we will move forward that way. Thank you, Lisa, for your ongoing work with these minutes. Much appreciated. The next item on our agenda is correspondence to council, and I am so happy to throw this over to Colleen.
It's my first time, so
You're gonna do great.
love criticism, actually, I don't love. I love feedback is the right word. All right, so if I missed any, please let me know. So November, do I put the dates? So we had an email regarding suggestions, in case you cannot come in person, Zoom, etc. You could use email, in support of the two items that we discussed tonight. And the Board of Ed and contract and the CLO audit and services, which we all talked today. An email regarding support of the pride flag, change of policy, and then an email regarding concerns of, the pride flag policy being revisited. How did you, Katie? Great, is that right? All right, that's it.
Okay.
I missed any.
Awesome.
All right.
So the next item on our agenda is the chairperson's report. I wanted to send a big thank you to the Tolland Public Safety for the Festival of Lights Parade. That was last Saturday, the 25th. That was a lot of fun to participate in, and thank you to the town manager for inviting the town council. We had a great time in our Santa hats, even though Brian wouldn't wear one. And I also want to, sorry.
He did wear his father's hat, you know.
My father's Irish hat,
Yeah,
his Hannah hat.
yeah, yeah.
Next year,
You look very sharp.
please put it on your calendar. It's fun. It
It was
takes
a lot of fun.
20 minutes.
Yeah, and we're gonna
I
bring,
know I kind of snuck it up on you guys this year, so I apologize. We didn't do this
Yeah.
last year, so it was,
yeah, it was great.
last year I was like, why aren't we doing this? And so,
And I was like, Joe, you come.
Yeah, I was in Quincy visiting my Irish family.
we were gonna body snatch you over there on the green and then make you come down.
We'll bring some more candy canes next year, because we didn't have enough this year, so.
I will say that they spend our money like the candy canes. We're in big trouble. By the first corner.
Yeah, there were a lot of, there, it seems like every year there's more and more people along the green attending these parades. Everyone looked like they were having a great time, and I do want to specifically, I didn't realize, because it didn't happen until at the very, very end, but the fire department, the public safety department does give out awards at the end. They get Santa trophies. And the Tolland Little League had the best overall parade float. So congratulations to Tolland Little League. It looked great. It was really fun. So thank you very much for that. I am gonna hold chair hour next Thursday, the 7th, 6:30 at the library large study room for any member of the public wants to come. Yes, welcome to come sit with me. I'm sure it'll be fun. I did want to mention that the Tolland Christmas tour has started. I know some of us saw Santa driving on our way in today. The Tolland Santa tracker is online at tollandfire.org, so you can track Santa when Santa's supposed to come. There are more nights this year, but Santa's gonna go back to the North Pole a little bit earlier than he has in past years, so it's not quite so late. I don't know about you guys, but I had toddlers sleeping on the couch waiting for Santa in previous years. So excited. But so this year, a little bit earlier, the fire department asks people to dress warmly and be wait at the end of your driveway with a flashlight. And Santa does accept gift donations, which will be distributed to families that deserve the experience of the magic of Christmas. There is a upcoming winter concert by Take Note, an a cappella ensemble to benefit P-Flag Tolland Mansfield. That is happening Sunday, December 10th at 3 p.m. at St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Wyndham Center. The senior center is having a holiday party Thursday, the 14th of December from 5 to 7 at the senior center. The senior scoop newsletter, very enthusiastically invited seniors to this event. It's $12 per ticket. Brian mentioned Art Mart is this weekend on the green, sponsored by the Arts of Tolland. There will be wreaths and teacup auction. Sounds interesting. Also, there's stuff for Cruiser coming with the Connecticut State Police toy and gift collection. That's going to be Saturday, December 9th from 9 to 4 on the green. The resident state trooper and Troop C troopers will be there to stuff cruisers with new unwrapped toys and gift cards.
Can you repeat that, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the Stuff a Cruiser event with the Connecticut State Police. It's their toy and gift collection. It's going to be held Saturday, December 9th from 9 to 4 on the green. And the resident state trooper and Troop C are asking residents to help them stuff their cruisers with new and unwrapped toys and gift cards. That's always fun. It's kind of a fun way to fill a cruiser. No, so anyway, and then the Wreaths Across America event is happening on December 16th at Valley View Cemetery at noon. Just a reminder, the previous council did sponsor wreath or two, I don't know.
Yeah, we did.
This chair over here got us going on that. And so for all of you guys, if you want to, council has already made the contribution, so.
Take credit for it.
Chair, yeah, take credit for it.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is my list of lots and lots of holiday spirit coming to and around Tolland. So it's going to be a great season. Yes. The next item is communications and petitions from council persons. This is your opportunity to, talk about things. If there's anything you want on the agendas. So say now, Chris, go ahead.
Just a couple quick things. I want to reiterate Katie's thanks to Brian for starting this hopefully tradition of us participating in the parade. Thanks to Colleen for purchasing hundreds of candy canes. I think Jen and I gave one away too quick.
I got 265 or 365, not knowing how many, even though my husband said I need more, but these two at the beginning were.
I gave them out one at a time, very selectively through the entire, and had some left over at the
Yeah,
end.
you left some kids crying. So.
They look naughty.
I think that was great. So thank you, Colleen. And my son, who's 2, is obsessed with fire trucks. So it was a big night for him.
And buying the banner, Colleen.
Oh, yeah, the banner was great too.
Thank you,
Yes,
Colleen.
thank you.
We had a big banner, town council.
Yeah.
You're really laying it on, Brian.
I didn't, they brought, I was fighting.
And then the only other thing I want to do is just echo the importance of council being at Wreaths Across America. I think that's a fantastic thing that we're doing in town this year. And I would encourage anyone who can to come. So.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything?
I was going to, but I just recap what you guys said, so
Okay, no, got it? No,
So,
yes, okay, yeah, anything? No, okay.
Oh, wait, can I go back?
I don't know.
Let me see, I think you did a great job reminding us of all the wonderful things we'll be doing. Sounds like, but is it next? December 7th, we're going, the council's been invited to those tours.
I believe so.
Facility tour.
Facility tours. Facility tours. I think, just wanted to remind everybody, I think that's at 3 and that starts either at Public Works or, okay. This last year, 2 years ago, same night.
It's good to see that, especially the new garages. I don't know if you, I wasn't around when you were around, right?
No,
It's pretty fantastic.
I'd like to, I'm unfortunate, I can't make it that big, but, I'll try to get out somewhere.
Yeah, any other time you want, just if you can't, you guys aren't gonna make it, call me and I'll get you in there.
That's it. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is public participation. This has a 3-minute limit. If anyone in the public wishes to come up to the table and give their name and address and It's just you, Sean. You're the lone.
It's always
survivor.
me. That's fine. John Lappin, 168 Mountain Spring Road. It is uplifting news to hear that progress will be forthcoming with respect to my contaminated well, but I'm cautious to give too much praise too quickly. This has been an issue that has plagued my property for 7+ years. Overall, this needs to move more quickly with more definitive timelines and deliverables put in place. I want this to work, but if we cannot find a path forward, I may take matters into my own hand. I am not an overly litigious person, but if this is the route that I must go, rest assured I will. I have been more than patient in waiting for the town to rectify this issue, but so far to no avail. While I openly admit that progress has been made over the years, it is slow going and requires a lot of teeth pulling, and there is and in the end, no discernible effect has been seen on my levels of sodium and chloride in my water. I am fully aware that a lawsuit will not expedite the process, but I do know that it will cost a lot more. In addition to being made whole, which involves getting potable water first and foremost on my property, I would also look to recoup lawyers' fees, costs incurred in the 7+ years of dealing with this issue, which are multiple well pumps, water heaters, multiple floods in addition to water shutoffs, toilets, everything else that my water touches. And the labor associated with that, as well as pain and suffering, emotional distress for the loss of value on my property when I go to sell it, because I refuse to subject my family to this for another full year, and finally for moving expenses. I hope that town council takes under advisement when setting goals and actionables to rectify the situation at 168 Mountain Spring Road. Thank you.
Sean. Is there anyone else? No, so there's no one else, so that is the last item on our agenda is adjournment. Is there any objection to adjournment? No. Any objection? No. So without objection, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much.